Good morning, everybody. Today we get to be detectives. So we're going to continue our exploration of angles by looking at some pictures and using what we know to figure out what's missing, following the clues, sometimes through multiple steps to get to the answer. Okay. So we can find missing angles by looking for these four things. So first thing I want you to do, pause the video here, write down these four things in your notes. This is going to be our checklist of things to look for as we go through these problems. Okay, you can solve every problem we do today, both in class and in the homework, by looking for these four things. Okay. So one, you're going to be looking for complementary angles. Remember, complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so if you find an angle that's complementary to something we want, you can just subtract from 90 to figure out what it is. Supplementary angles, remember, add up to 180 degrees. So if you find a pair of supplementary angles, you can figure out what one is by subtracting the other from 180. We're going to look for vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are equal. Okay, so if I know what one of the angles is, I know the other angle is the same thing if they're vertical. Okay. Last thing I'm going to be looking for, which is kind of a follow up to yesterday, we're going to be looking for triangles. Remember, we learned that triangles, all the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So if I know two of them, I can figure out what the third one is. Okay. Now we could extend that to other shapes like rectangles and pentagons because, again, from yesterday, I know what all those add up to. But it's usually going to be in the triangles and the ones that we are dealing with today. But you could use the idea, say, if you had like 4 out of the 5 angles in a pentagon, kind of like you did on your homework yesterday. All right, so let's look at an example where we have to use a couple of different ideas. So in this picture, it says angle A and angle B are congruent. So they are the same. And it wants me to find the measure of angle 3 and ultimately the measure of angle 4. Okay, so that's what I'm after. So if I think about the things that I'm looking for, well, complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. So do I see a right angle here anywhere? No. Okay, supplementary angles add up to 180. So do I see a straight line somewhere? Well, I do actually. Right here, angles 3 and 4, if you put those together, 3 and 4 make a straight line. Okay, which tells me if I knew what either 3 or 4 was, I could figure out the other one. Okay, I don't yet. So I can't use that yet, but I might be able to use that idea later. Okay, I don't see any vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles look like that. There are two lines intersecting, they're across from each other. I don't have that happening here anywhere. Okay, I do have a triangle. So in this triangle, I'm told that this angle is 50 degrees. I'm also told angles A and B are congruent. They're the same, which means this is also 50 degrees. So number 4 on my list is to look for a triangle where I know 2 out of the 3 angles, which I do actually have here. Right? So in this triangle, this is 50 and this is 50. So I can figure out what angle 3 is. So 50 and 50 add up to 100. I subtract that from 180 to figure out what's left, and I get 80 degrees. Okay? So if these two are both 50, angle 3 would be 80 degrees. Okay, halfway there. Now for angle 4, now I can see 3 and 4 are supplementary angles, and now I know one of them. Okay, so if this is 80 degrees, 3 and 4 have to add up to 180. And just take 180 and subtract 80. That gives me 100. So in this picture, I know that angle 3 is 80 degrees because of this triangle, and that tells me that angle 4 is 100 degrees. And that's going to be how a lot of these goes, is you're going to have to find one thing which leads you to another thing. So you got to kind of follow the clues. Okay, I was always looking for those 4 things. All right, so let's look at this one. So this is the angle that I'm trying to find. Okay, so if I figure out what I can do, I look at my list. I do have a triangle, but unfortunately, I only knew one of the angles in this triangle. I don't have any right angles, but I do have a straight line right here. So I have a straight line that's kind of broken up with an angle, but it tells me what one of the angles is. So that tells me that I can figure out what this angle is also. Because if these add up to 180 and that's 137, I can just subtract that and I get 43. Okay, so that's not what I'm looking for ultimately, but that's going to get me a step closer. Okay, so this tells me that this is 43. Okay, well, what can I do next? Okay, if I go back to my list, I don't have any supplementary angles I can use. I don't have any complementary angles. I don't have any vertical angles. But now I do have a triangle where I know 2 out of the 3. Okay, because that first step, I now know that what these 2 angles are, so I can figure out what this angle is. Okay, so 102 plus 43 gives me 145. Okay. Subtract that from 180 to see what's left, gives me 35. So this angle must be 35 degrees to get them all to add up to 180. Okay, all right. So one more step. Now that I know this angle, I can figure out this angle because, again, these make a straight line together. They make 180 degrees. They're supplementary. So I can do 180 degrees, subtract the 35 inside the triangle to figure out what's outside. Gives me 145. Okay, so the angle I'm looking for there is 145 degrees. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. So, going through my list, do I see any complementary angles? Well, I don't see any right angles anywhere, so no. Do I see any supplementary angles? I do. I see a few, like these, but I don't know one of them yet. I could use the fact that this is 35 to figure this out, but I actually have a quicker way, so I'm going to skip over that for now. Because you may notice I have something I haven't had yet. I got 2 lines crossing, creating vertical angles. And that's going to actually help me out quicker. Okay? So the thing I know about vertical angles is that they're the same. So if this is 35 degrees, so is this. Okay. All right, so once I know that, well, that gives me 2 out of the 3 of this triangle. So that lets me figure out this angle. And so if I add those together, 100 plus 35 is 135. Subtract that from 180, gives me 45. So I know that this is 45 degrees. Okay. All right, now that I know that, that lets me use supplementary angles. Because again, these make a straight line. Have to add up to 180. So 180 minus the 45 gives me 135. So that is the size of that angle. Okay. So I'm taking it one step at a time, figuring out what I can find out, and what finding that out lets me find out next. Okay, and you'll have to go a couple steps usually till you get to an answer. All right, I'm going to put up a couple more. I'm going to let you try these on your own. See if you can figure out what either of or both of these angles are that have the question marks. Once you're ready to resume, go ahead and resume the video. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you got these answers. In the first picture, it was 85, and the second picture is 130. So the steps we had to go through for this one, the first thing to do is recognize these add up to 180. So this is 155, that has to be 25. Okay. Once I know this is 25, I already had this was 60. Okay, that lets me tell these three adding up to 180 that this has to be 95. Okay, once I get that this is 95, again, I got another straight line here with the angle I'm trying to figure out. So subtract this from 180 and I get 85. Okay, so 3 steps for that one gets me to 85. Okay, for this one was only 2 steps. Okay, I noticed right away I had a triangle with 2 of the 3 angles. So 30 plus 20 is 50. That means this angle has to be 130. So that it adds up to 180. Okay, and then the angle I want is just vertical from that. So this is 130. So is this. Vertical angles are always equal. Okay. All right, let's look at a couple more complex ones. Okay. So in this one, we got A, B, C, D, and E. I'm going to have you pause the video here and see how many of these you can find. It is possible to find all 5 of them. So let's see how many you can find. I'll give you a couple minutes, then we'll resume and see how you can get them all together. All right, welcome back. First thing I see that I'm going to fill in, I can see I can get A pretty quickly because if this is 60, this is 60. They are vertical. Okay, so A is 60 degrees. Okay, let's see what other ones I can find. Well, I still don't know 2 out of the 3 in this triangle, so that can't help me yet. I only know 1 here. I only know 1 here. But I do notice these 3 angles make a straight line together. These are all supplementary. There's 51 degrees, B, and 110. All make 180 degrees together because of this straight line. Okay, so I can figure out how much B is by using that idea. So 110 plus 51 is 161. I want to subtract that from 180, and I get 19. Okay, so B has to be 19 in order for those to all add up to 180. Okay, so I solved for B. Okay, well that's going to help because now I knew one of the angles in this triangle. Now I know 2. So I got 60 and 19 add up to 79. 180 minus 79 is 101. So figuring that out leads me to C being 101. Okay, well, what can I find out next? Well, now that I know C, I can figure out D because they're supplementary. They make a straight line. So this is 101. Subtract that from 180, I get 79. So D is also 79 degrees. Okay, last thing to figure out is E. Okay, well now I just got the second of these 3 angles. So I can do the same thing. 79 plus 51 is 130. Subtract that from 180 gives you 50. Okay, so E is 50 degrees. All right, so those should be our answers for those 5. All right. So I don't know if we'll have time for this one. Things get more and more complicated, but it's still using the same 4 things. So if there's time, if not, I'm just going to cut off the video. If there's time, go ahead and see if you can figure out any of these and figure out how. If not, that's fine. Okay. If you get this one and want an even more exciting challenge, I'll let you look at this one on your own. Okay, so you can come back to the video, pause it here, and see how many, if any, of these you can find. Okay, you can see these get pretty complicated pretty quickly. But again, there's nothing you can't do here. by using just those 4 ideas that we listed at the very first slide, looking for those 4 things. Okay. All right, so I will stop the video there. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.